Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's tutorial, I want to show you how I use 2 yards of net with a yard of taffeta to make this beautiful dress. Yeah. So if this is your first time of coming across my channel, do well to like, share, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe. So the first thing I did was to fold the net into four, like fold the 2 yards into two and then fold it into four. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to straighten it just like the way you're seeing, and I measure 14 inches. That's from a half length downward is 14 inches. All right. So before I did that, I made sure I cut it straight. All right. So I folded it just like what you're seeing, and I went ahead to mark 14 inches and then cut it out. So this is the outcome. I went ahead to cut it just like what you're seeing on the screen, though I've already cut like 2 extra. All right, so adding to it, I have like 3 layers. All right, so after that, I went ahead to cut the taffeta the same inches. Okay, I minus one from it. So the taffeta, just like what you're seeing on the screen, that's what I'm going to use for the gathers. I'm not going to use hard knit. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to fold the remaining taffeta to cut the upper bodies. They have length, so I measured half inch to get the shoulder slope, and then went ahead to measure 4 inches to get a armhole measurement, and then a half length, which is 7 inches. I marked it just like what you're seeing on the screen. So our waist is 18. I added 2 inches to it, making 20. Divided by 4, you get 5. Then I added 1 inch for sewing allowance, just like what you're seeing on the screen. And on the chest area, the same thing. Our chest is 18. I added 2 inches to it, yeah, making 20. So I added 1 to it. So on the chest area, to get the armhole curve, I did the same thing, the same measurement I have on for the shoulder is what I use. So from there I cut it. Now looking at it now, I'm using taffeta for both front and back. All right, like I'm going to use one set of taffeta for lining and one for the net. So after I was done, I went ahead to cut the back. The only difference between the back and the front is just the addition to the armhole. All right, and the zipper allowance. Okay, so now I added 1 inch, just like what you're seeing on the screen. I added 1 inch for the zipper allowance and then cut it out. So after I was done cutting out, it was time to cut the neck. She's going to 6 months, and I use 1.5 for the neck width, and for the neck depth I use 2 inches. So that's perfect for newborn babies. All right, so from there I went ahead to connect the chalk necklines and then cut it out just like what you're seeing on the screen. So for the back, right, I went down by 1 inch initially, thinking. So after I was done cutting the 1 inch, marking the 1 inch, I realized that it's going to be too high. All right, for the back, so I brought it down by half inch again. So the style of what I use for the back is 1.5. So I went ahead to cut it just like what you're seeing on the screen. All right, so I picked the taffeta that I cut out for the gathers, and the remaining taffeta, rather, that's what I want to use for the belt. So for our belt, I used 3 inches. So I wanted this side to be slanting, and I marked it. I went ahead to cut it. I think I used 23 inches for the belt. So after that, I replicated the same thing for both sides, and it was time to focus on the front. All right, remember the remaining 2 yards of net. Out of the remaining 2 yards is what I'm going to use to do the pleat, because initially I was not sure what I'm going to sew, but I knew that I'm using net or something. So the first thing I did was to measure the length of the net and then went ahead to divide it into two. All right, so after dividing it into two, I picked one and divided it into two again, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So I'm going to divide this one into two. So this one is going to be for the back, one for the other side, and one for the other side. So the other one is going to be for the front. So let's go. So after I was done doing that, I started plating. So the first thing I did was to pin it down and then plait it just like what you're seeing on the screen. While I'm plating, I'm using my pin to hold it down, doing the same thing on the other hand, the other shoulder. So just like that, that's the way I did it. I'll pick one. So if you want your own plate to be smaller, you can do the same thing. You can control it with your hands. I'll pick here and then use the pin to hold it down just like what you're seeing. You just have to exercise patience when you're doing this. If you're going to do something like this, whether for your client, for yourself, just have to exercise patience because the pinning itself. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to sew it. So before I sew it, I went ahead to brace it and then remove the pins. After I was done doing that, I went ahead to trim the excess out, just like what you are going to see on the screen. So I went ahead to trim it out. So after I was done trimming out, this is the outcome. So after that, I did the same thing for the back, and then I went ahead to iron it, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So after ironing it, it was time to sew. I joined the shoulder, just like what you're seeing on the screen, the shoulder and also the taffeta, which I'm going to use for the lining. So after that, I went ahead to put hairstay on the belt because I wanted it to have a little weight. I didn't use taffeta, I used hairstay, and the interfacing that I use makes it a little more thicker. All right, and then before then I went ahead to sew it in the belt. Now the mistake that I made was not really a mistake, but I just had to pleat it because I realized that leaving the belt like that it is going to occupy space. So I had to hold a little pleat. So in case you want to do cut the belt, just measure the length, the length of the side, okay, to reduce it. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to join the sides. I joined the front and also the lining as well. Remember I added 1 inch, so it's the 1 inch that I sew. So for the back, for the taffeta itself that I'm going to use for the lining, I sew like 3/4. Meanwhile, for the material itself, I use 1 inch, the exact 1 inch. So I went ahead to do the turning of the neck. So before then, I had this trimming. So I thought of like it's going to be too plain, so I decided to use it. So the first thing I did, I placed it on the center. I was thinking of I'm going to place it, but I sure did it. So from there, I placed on the other side, and that was what I did. It was beautiful. So this is the outcome. So after that, I went ahead to top stitch it, to sew the neck and then iron it. So this is it. So the next thing I did was to pick up the taffeta, the one I want to use for the inner. I make sure I sew the 1 inch, 1.5 I think. I also went ahead to join the gathers, to join the net And when if you are using half inch to join the net, make sure you cut it, you trim it and let it be like 1 inch. After that, I went ahead to draw the gathers for the taffeta, just like what you're seeing on the screen. So what you're going to measure the waist of the upper part and then draw your gathers to this point, to the exact measurement. That was what I did. But for the zipper line on the upper part, you're not going to let the gathers to be full there. It has to be light so that when you put in your zip, so everything will now be perfect. So from there, I went ahead to brace the net on the taffeta, and this is the outcome. So after I was done doing that, I went ahead to place the upper part just like what you are seeing on the screen. I picked the front and sew it, and after that I used the lining to turn it in. So this is the outcome after joining it. So it was time to fix the sleeves. I measured the armhole of the sleeves and then used the remaining taffeta that was left to just cut a little cap sleeve for her. So just like that. The truth is I didn't leave it plain like this. So the remaining net I also used. So the first thing I did was to mark 4 inches. It's a kid, so it doesn't have to be fitted. And I marked 4 inches and then added 1 inch for the sewing allowance. So from there, I went ahead to connect it just like what you're seeing on the screen. And so the measurement I used to bring it down, it was 2 inches. Okay, to get the armhole depth. So 2 inches, and after I took that, I realized it was okay from there, and then I went ahead to cut it. I added 1 inch, remember, and then cut it out. Now, after I was done cutting it out, remember I cut each sleeve has 2. I cut 2 for each sleeve because the remaining net that I used that was left, that was what I used for the pleat. I did the same thing, and after I was done doing that, and this is the outcome. You can see how beautiful it is. Beautiful. So if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do well to subscribe. Thank you.